The rain had been falling for 3 days straight, which meant Seattle was living up to its reputation. I stood under the awning of Pike Place Market, my camera bag heavy on my shoulder, watching tourists dodge puddles while locals moved with the practiced indifference of people who'd learned to live with perpetual moisture. 3 months. That's how long it had been since I'd walked out of Marcus's downtown apartment with nothing but my camera equipment and the clothes I could fit in 2 duffel bags. 3 months of rebuilding a life I'd let crumble while trying to be the perfect girlfriend for a man who measured my worth and how well I disappeared into his expectations. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Riley. Coffee at Harborview in 20? I have news about the gallery showing. I typed back quickly. On my way. Chen owned a small art gallery in Pioneer Square, and she'd been pushing me for months to display my photography. The problem was that most of my recent work documented the architecture of emotional isolation: empty rooms, abandoned spaces, shadows that looked like they were trying to escape their objects. Not exactly cheerful gallery material, but apparently Riley had found buyers interested in raw, emotional authenticity. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I navigated through the market, past vendors selling fresh salmon and flowers, past the gum wall that tourists found charming and locals found disgusting. My camera stayed in my bag today. After 3 months of photographing pain, I needed a break from finding beauty in brokenness. Harborview Cafe sat on a corner with windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Riley was already there, practically vibrating with excitement, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun that somehow looked deliberately stylish on her. "Okay, don't freak out," she said the moment I sat down, "but I sold 3 of your pieces. To a private collector. For $15,000. I blinked. "That's not possible." "Very possible. He came in yesterday, spent an hour studying your work, and bought the entire Fractured Spaces series." Riley pulled out her tablet, showing me the receipt. "Emma, this guy is serious. He wants to commission more work. He specifically requested your contact information." "Who is he?" "Dante Russo. Owns several businesses in Seattle, restaurants, a wine import company, some real estate development. Super private, doesn't do interviews, but his reputation in the art community is solid. He pays well and doesn't interfere with artists' vision." The name meant nothing to me, but $15,000 meant rent for 6 months. Meant I could stop taking the commercial photography jobs I hated, the corporate headshots and real estate listings that paid bills but killed my soul. "Did he say what kind of commission?" "He wants to meet you first. Tonight, actually. His restaurant, Vesuvio, on the waterfront. 7 o'clock. Riley's expression turned serious. I wouldn't push this if I didn't trust him. I asked around. He's legitimate, respectful to artists, and apparently he has a thing for photography that captures emotional truth. Your work spoke to him." I wanted to say yes immediately. I wanted to jump at this opportunity, prove to myself that leaving Marcus and starting over had been worth it. But 3 months of freedom hadn't erased 2 years of learned caution. "I'll meet him. But you're texting me every hour to make sure I'm okay." "Deal. And wear something nice. Vesuvio is upscale." That evening, I stood outside Vesuvio, watching rain create halos around streetlights. The restaurant occupied a renovated warehouse on the waterfront, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. Expensive cars lined the valet area, and even from outside I could see the kind of clientele that made me feel underdressed despite wearing my best black dress. The hostess greeted me with professional warmth. "Emma Hartley, Mr. Russo is expecting you. Follow me, please." She led me through the main dining room, past tables where people ate food that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The decor was industrial chic. Edison bulbs, reclaimed wood, Italian marble accents. At the back, separated from the main space by a frosted glass partition, was a private dining area. And there, sitting at a table with paperwork spread before him, was Dante Russo. He looked up as I approached, and something in my chest tightened. He was younger than I expected. Mid-30s maybe, with dark hair that fell across his forehead in a way that suggested he'd been running his hands through it. Strong jaw, olive skin, and eyes so dark they were almost black. He wore a charcoal suit with the jacket draped over his chair, white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows revealing forearms I had no business noticing. But it wasn't his appearance that made me pause. It was the way he looked at me, like he was already cataloging details, reading the story my body language told before I said a word. Emma Hartley. He stood, extending his hand. Thank you for meeting me on short notice. I'm Dante Russo. His handshake was firm but not aggressive, his palm warm against mine. Thank you for buying my work. I bought what spoke to me. Please sit. He gestured to the chair across from him, waiting until I was seated before settling back into his own. Can I order you something? The chef is preparing tasting portions of several dishes, but if you have dietary restrictions... I eat everything, I said, then immediately felt foolish. I mean, no restrictions. Thank you. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Good. I hate eating alone, and I have the feeling we'll be talking for a while. A waiter appeared with wine, pouring for both of us before disappearing as silently as he'd arrived. Dante raised his glass slightly. To fractured spaces, your series captured something I've been trying to articulate for years, how places hold memory even after people leave them. I clinked my glass against his, surprised by the observation. Most people see those photos and think they're just empty rooms. Most people aren't looking. He set down his glass. Tell me about the abandoned hotel, the one with the light coming through broken windows. That photo. I'd taken it 6 weeks after leaving Marcus, standing in the ruins of the Morrison Hotel on a rare sunny day. The light had cut through the destruction in shafts that looked almost holy, and I'd realized that even broken things could be beautiful if you were willing to see them differently. It was scheduled for demolition, I said carefully. I wanted to document it before it disappeared completely. And the caption? Some things have to break before they can be free. That's not about the building, is it? The question was too perceptive, too direct. I should have deflected, kept things professional. Instead, I found myself saying, no, it's not about the building. Dante nodded slowly, like I'd confirmed something he'd already known. Riley mentioned you're freelance. What kind of work do you do besides personal projects? Corporate photography mostly. Headshots, real estate, product shots. It pays the bills, but it's not what I'm passionate about. What are you passionate about? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time someone had asked me that? Marcus had never cared about my passions. He'd cared about whether my work schedule interfered with his needs, whether my photography made enough money to be worthwhile, whether my ambitions made him look bad by comparison. Stories, I said finally. I'm passionate about telling stories through images, about finding the moment that reveals truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Then I have a proposal for you. Dante leaned forward slightly. I'm opening a new restaurant in Capitol Hill in 6 months. I want you to document the entire process, the construction, the staff training, the preparation, the opening night. Not sanitized corporate images. Real photography that captures the story of building something from nothing. My heart rate picked up. That's months of work. Which is why I'm offering $50,000 for exclusive rights to the series. You'd have complete creative control. I won't interfere with your artistic vision, won't dictate what you shoot or how you shoot it. I just want the truth of the process, whatever that looks like through your lens. $50,000. That was mortgage payment money. That was freedom money. That was never take another corporate headshot again money. Why me? There are more experienced photographers in Seattle. Because your work understands that beauty and pain coexist, that creation requires destruction, that real stories are messy and complicated and true. His dark eyes held mine. I don't want a photographer who'll make everything look perfect. I want someone who'll show the reality. I should have been cautious, should have asked for time to think, consulted with Riley, researched Dante Russo more thoroughly. But sitting across from him, being seen in a way I hadn't experienced in years, I felt something shift inside me. I'll do it. Good. Satisfaction crossed his features. My lawyer will send over a contract tomorrow. In the meantime, I'd like you to start by photographing Vesuvio. Get a feel for how I run my establishments, meet the staff, understand the philosophy, consider it research. Food began arriving. Small plates of pasta, grilled octopus, wood-fired vegetables, each dish more exquisite than the last. We talked while we ate, Dante asking questions about my technique, my influences, my creative process. He listened with an intensity that made me feel like every word mattered, like my thoughts had value beyond their utility to someone else. I was finishing a bite of the best tiramisu I'd ever tasted when movement near the entrance caught my eye. My entire body went rigid. Marcus stood in the doorway, scanning the restaurant. He wore his charcoal suit, the one he always wore to important meetings, and his expression carried that familiar mix of entitlement and barely contained anger. Our eyes met across the space, and I watched recognition dawn on his face. Then his gaze shifted to Dante, sitting across from me, and something dark flickered in Marcus's expression. Emma. Marcus was already moving toward our table, his stride aggressive. What the hell are you doing here? My mouth had gone dry. Marcus, leave, please. Leave? You've been ignoring my calls for 3 months, and now I find you having dinner with some random guy? He reached our table, his hand slamming down on the surface hard enough to make the glasses rattle. We need to talk, now. I'd spent 3 months practicing what I'd say if I saw Marcus again. I'd rehearsed being strong, being clear, maintaining boundaries, but actually facing him, seeing that look in his eyes that meant he'd convinced himself he was entitled to my time, my attention, my entire existence. All my careful preparation evaporated. This is a private dinner, Dante said, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made me look at him sharply. You need to leave. Marcus turned his attention to Dante for the first time, really looking at him. And who the hell are you? The owner of this restaurant, and the person telling you that you're not welcome here. I'm talking to my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, I interrupted, finding my voice. Marcus, we're done. I left. I'm not coming back. You need to accept that. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, his fingers digging into the exact spot where bruises had only recently faded. You don't get to just leave, Emma. 2 years. What happened next occurred so fast, I almost missed it. Dante stood, his movement fluid and controlled, and suddenly he was between Marcus and me. His hand had caught Marcus's wrist, and from the way Marcus's face went pale, Dante's grip was painfully tight. Let her go. Each word was quiet, deliberate, and absolutely terrifying in its calm delivery. Marcus released my wrist immediately, but Dante didn't release him. The temperature in the private dining area had dropped about 20 degrees, and I saw Marcus truly register who he was dealing with for the first time. Stay behind me, Dante said to me, his voice still that same deadly calm, never taking his eyes off Marcus. I stood and moved behind him without thinking, my body responding to the command before my brain processed it. From this angle, I could see how Dante positioned himself, a wall between Marcus and me, his body language making it clear that getting to me meant going through him first. I don't know who you think you are, Marcus started, but Dante cut him off. I know exactly who I am. The question is, do you know where you are? Dante's grip tightened further, and Marcus actually winced. This is my restaurant. These are my people. And the woman you just grabbed? She's under my protection now. Which means you have two choices. Leave quietly, or leave in an ambulance. Your decision. Two large men had materialized near the entrance to our dining area, security clearly, though they'd been invisible until this moment. They stood ready, waiting for Dante's signal. Marcus looked at them, at Dante, at me, half hidden behind Dante's shoulder. I watched him calculate the situation, watched reality finally penetrate his entitled worldview. This isn't over, Emma, Marcus said, trying for threatening but landing somewhere near desperate. You can't just... It's been over for 3 months, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The only person who didn't accept that was you. Don't contact me again, Marcus. Don't call. Don't text. Don't show up anywhere I am. We're done. Dante made a subtle gesture, and the two security men moved forward. They didn't touch Marcus. Didn't have to. Their presence alone was enough to get him moving toward the exit. Marcus left, throwing one last look over his shoulder that promised this conversation wasn't finished in his mind. But he left. The moment he was gone, Dante turned to me, his expression shifting from that terrifying calm to something that looked almost like concern. Are you all right? I realized I was shaking. I'm fine. I'm sorry, I didn't know he'd... You have nothing to apologize for. Dante's hand hovered near my shoulder but didn't quite touch, giving me space. Sit. Breathe. You're safe. I sat because my legs weren't entirely reliable, and Dante returned to his chair, though I noticed he'd positioned it slightly differently. Now he had a clear view of the entrance. That was your ex, he said. Not a question. Yes. Marcus Chen. We dated for 2 years. I left 3 months ago. My hands were still shaking, so I clasped them together in my lap. He's been trying to contact me, but I've blocked him. I didn't think he'd actually track me down in person. He grabbed you. Dante's voice had gone flat again. That's not the first time, is it? The observation was too accurate. He never hit me, but he grabbed, pushed, backed me into corners, controlled where I went, who I saw, what I wore. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Everyone thought he was perfect. Successful lawyer, attractive, charming. They didn't see what he was like behind closed doors. Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried weight I couldn't quite interpret. My sister was in a relationship like that. Controlling boyfriend who isolated her from everyone who cared about her. By the time we realized how bad it was, she was too afraid to leave. He put her in the hospital twice before she finally got a restraining order. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be glad you got out when you did. His dark eyes met mine directly. But you need to understand something, Emma. Men like your ex don't give up easily. He will try to contact you again. He will show up places he thinks you'll be. And next time, he might be angrier, more desperate. Fear coiled in my stomach because I knew he was right. Tonight had been Marcus at his most public, most restrained. What would he be like somewhere less visible, somewhere without witnesses? What do I do? The question came out smaller than I intended. You let me help you. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I'm going to give you the contact information for my head of security. His name is Vincent Torres, former FBI, completely trustworthy. He'll set you up with personal security protocols, help you file a more comprehensive restraining order, make sure Marcus understands that approaching you again will have serious consequences. I can't afford... You're not paying. Consider it part of your commission contract. I invest in my artists, Emma. That includes making sure they're safe enough to do their best work. He slid a business card across the table. Vincent will contact you tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm having one of my people drive you home and do a security check of your apartment. It was too much. This was a business dinner, and suddenly Dante was arranging personal protection, offering resources I hadn't asked for. Every instinct Marcus had cultivated in me screamed that accepting help meant owing something, meant giving up control, meant trading one cage for another. But Dante wasn't Marcus. The way he'd stepped between us, the way he'd given me the choice to stay behind him, the way he was offering help without demanding anything in return, it felt different. Felt like actual protection instead of disguised control. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. Because I can. Because my sister didn't have anyone who could help her, until it was almost too late. And because, Emma, your photography tells me everything I need to know about who you are, someone who's been broken and is trying to figure out how to be free. He stood, extending his hand to help me up. Let me help make that freedom real. I took his hand. Vincent Torres showed up at my apartment at 8 the next morning with coffee and the kind of calm competence that suggested he'd done this 1,000 times before. He was in his 40s, built like someone who'd spent years staying in fighting shape, with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. Emma Hartley? He extended his hand. Vincent Torres. Mr. Russo asked me to help you with your security situation. I invited him in, suddenly self-conscious about my cramped studio apartment with its second-hand furniture and photographs tacked to every available wall. Vincent didn't comment on the space, just did a methodical walk through, checking windows, examining the door lock, noting the fire escape access. Your building security is minimal, he said, returning to my small kitchen table where I'd set out the coffee he'd brought. Single lock on the door, ground floor windows accessible from the street, no security cameras in the common areas. Has your ex been here? Not that I know of, but I've only been here 6 weeks. I moved after leaving him. He doesn't know this address. You're sure about that? I wanted to be sure, but Marcus was resourceful, connected, the kind of person who knew how to find information. I didn't tell him, but he's a lawyer with access to databases and investigative resources. I can't guarantee he hasn't tracked me down. Vincent nodded like he'd expected that answer. We're going to upgrade your security. New locks, deadbolts with reinforced strike plates, window sensors that alert if they're opened, a camera system for your door and the exterior of the building. And this. He set a small device on the table. Personal panic button. You press it, and it sends an immediate alert to me, Mr. Russo, and emergency services with your exact GPS location. This is too much. I can't possibly afford. Mr. Russo is covering the cost. He's also arranged for you to have a security detail starting today. I blinked. A security detail? Like bodyguards? Discreet security. People trained to keep distance but respond immediately if needed. You won't notice them most of the time, but they'll be there. Vincent pulled out a tablet showing me photographs of 2 people, a woman in her 30s with athletic build and a man who looked like he could bench press a car. Sarah Chen and Marcus Blake, both former law enforcement, both trained in executive protection. They'll rotate shifts covering you during high-risk times, leaving your apartment, traveling to shoots, any public appearances. This was insane. Yesterday, I'd been a struggling photographer taking corporate headshots. Today, I had bodyguards. This seems excessive for one. Confrontation with my ex. Vincent's expression grew serious. Ms. Hartley, I ran a background check on Marcus Chen last night. In the past 3 months since you left him, he's been fired from his law firm for erratic behavior. He's had 2 domestic disturbance calls to his apartment involving women he was dating, and he's currently under investigation for stalking a former colleague who rejected him. This isn't about one confrontation. This is about a pattern of escalating behavior. Ice flooded my veins. I didn't know any of that. That's why you need protection. Men like Marcus Chen are most dangerous when they feel they're losing control. You leaving him, you moving on with your life, you having dinner with another man, all of that makes him feel powerless. And powerless men often resort to violence to reclaim what they think they're owed. I thought about Marcus's face last night when Dante stepped between us. The rage I'd seen there, barely controlled even in a public space with witnesses. What would he be like somewhere private? Somewhere he thought no one would stop him. Okay, I said quietly. What do I need to do? Vincent spent the next 2 hours walking me through security protocols. How to vary my routine so I wasn't predictable. Which routes to take when leaving the apartment. How to check for surveillance. What to do if Marcus approached me again. By the time he finished, my head was spinning with information, but I also felt more prepared than I had in months. One more thing, Vincent said as he was leaving. Mr. Russo wants to see you this afternoon at his office. 2 o'clock. Sarah will drive you. What does he want to see me about? He didn't say, but knowing Dante, he probably wants to make sure you're okay after last night. Vincent's expression softened slightly. He takes protection seriously, Ms. Hartley. When he commits to keeping someone safe, he follows through. You can trust him. After Vincent left, I tried to work, editing photos from a recent real estate shoot. But I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying last night. Marcus's hand on my wrist, Dante's deadly calm voice, the way I'd felt simultaneously terrified and safe standing behind him. My phone buzzed. A text from Riley. OMG, just heard about last night from the gallery grapevine. Are you okay? Call me immediately. I called. Riley answered on the first ring. Emma, what the hell happened? I heard Marcus showed up at Vesuvio and Dante Russo had him thrown out. Please tell me you're okay. I'm fine. Shaken but fine. Dante was... I struggled for the right word. Protective. He put himself between us, made sure Marcus left, and now he's arranged security for me. Security? Like actual bodyguards? Apparently Marcus has been having problems since I left him. Dante's people think he's dangerous. Riley was quiet for a moment. Okay, I need to tell you something, and you're probably going to be mad I didn't mention it before. My stomach tightened. What? When I said I asked around about Dante Russo, the reason everyone speaks so respectfully about him isn't just because he pays well. It's because he's connected, Emma. Like, really connected. His family has been in Seattle for 3 generations, and they have influence. The kind people don't talk about directly. You're saying he's in the Mafia. I'm saying his family has businesses that operate in gray areas, and he's powerful enough that people are very careful about crossing him, which, given your situation with Marcus, might actually be a good thing. But I thought you should know what you're getting involved with. I thought about the way Dante's security had materialized last night, the efficiency with which they'd removed Marcus, the resources he'd deployed this morning, Vincent, the security equipment, the personal protection team. That wasn't just wealth. That was organization, infrastructure, power. He bought my photography because he actually likes it, right? Not because of some ulterior motive? Oh God, no. From what I heard, he spent over an hour studying your work before he bought anything. He's a genuine art collector, has pieces from dozens of Seattle artists in his personal collection. The commission is real, Emma. He just happens to also be someone with the resources to actually protect you if Marcus escalates. After we hung up, I sat staring at my phone. I'd spent 2 years with Marcus learning that powerful men used that power to control. But Dante had used his power last night to give me safety, to create distance between me and danger. Was that really different? Or was I just fooling myself because he'd been kind about it? At exactly 2 o'clock, Sarah Chen arrived in a sleek black SUV. She was professional but friendly, chatting about the weather and Seattle traffic, while I tried not to feel like I was in a spy movie. Dante's office was in a building near Pike Place Market, the top floor of a restored early 20th century structure with views of the Sound. His assistant, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a warm smile, led me to his office. "He's finishing a call. He'll just be a moment. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "Water would be great. Thank you." The office was impressive without being ostentatious. Dark wood furniture, built-in bookshelves filled with what looked like actual books rather than decorative props, and one entire wall covered with framed photographs. I moved closer, studying them. They were all different styles, different artists, but each captured something raw and real. A street musician mid-song, an elderly couple holding hands, rain on window glass reflecting neon signs. "I collect work that makes me feel something." Dante's voice came from behind me. "Technique matters, but emotion matters more." I turned to find him standing in the doorway, dressed more casually than last night. Dark jeans, black sweater, no jacket. He looked younger somehow, less like a businessman and more like someone who might actually understand why I spent hours chasing perfect light. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. "Your collection is beautiful," I said. "Thank you. Though I'm hoping to add more of your work to it soon." He gestured to the leather chairs near the windows. "Please, sit. Did Vincent get you set up this morning?" He did, and it was overwhelming and appreciated in equal measure. I settled into the chair, accepting the water his assistant brought. I'm not used to this level of attention. Protection isn't attention. It's necessity. Dante sat across from me, his dark eyes serious. "I asked you here because I wanted to check on you personally, away from the crisis of last night. How are you really doing?" The question, asked with genuine concern rather than polite courtesy, cracked something in my chest. "Honestly, I'm scared. Not just of Marcus, but of what accepting your help might mean. I spent 2 years in a relationship where help always came with strings attached, where protection was just another word for control." Dante was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "My sister said something similar after she finally left her boyfriend. She was terrified to accept help from our family because she'd learned that letting someone close meant giving them power over you. What changed her mind? Time and consistency. We kept showing up, kept offering support without demanding anything in return. Eventually, she realized that real protection doesn't require you to shrink yourself. It gives you room to grow." He leaned forward slightly. "Emma, I'm going to be direct with you because I think you value honesty. Yes, I have resources and connections that exist in morally complicated spaces. Yes, I run businesses that operate according to rules most people never think about. But I don't use my power to control people I care about. I use it to protect them. You barely know me. Why do you care? Because your work shows me a person who understands pain but hasn't let it destroy her capacity for beauty. Because watching you stand up to your ex last night, scared but refusing to back down, reminded me of my sister's strength. And selfishly, because I want to see what you create when you're not looking over your shoulder in fear." The honesty in his voice made it hard to maintain my skepticism. "What exactly are you offering me, Dante?" "Safety while you build the life you deserve. Use of my security resources until the threat from Marcus is neutralized. The photography commission we discussed, with absolutely no strings attached to any of the protection I'm providing." He held my gaze. "And if you want, friendship." I meant what I said last night. I hate eating alone. I'd enjoy having someone to talk to who sees the world the way you do. Friendship with a man who has the kind of power that makes lawyers leave restaurants without argument? A slight smile touched his lips. Friendship with a man who appreciates good photography and better conversation. The power is just a circumstance of my family history. It doesn't define every interaction I have. I wanted to believe him. More than that, I wanted to trust my own judgment again. Marcus had broken my ability to distinguish between genuine kindness and manipulation disguised as care. But sitting across from Dante, seeing the way he'd deliberately kept physical distance between us, the way he'd offered resources without demanding access, I felt like maybe my instincts weren't completely destroyed. Okay, I said. Friendship and the commission. But I need you to promise me something. What? If I ever feel controlled, if any of this starts feeling like Marcus's kind of protection, you let me walk away. No arguments. No making me feel guilty. No using your resources to track me down. You just let me go. Something flickered in Dante's expression. Hurt, maybe, or understanding. I promise. You can walk away anytime, Emma. I won't stop you. Then I accept your help. And your friendship. And I'll start photographing Vesuvio this week. Relief crossed his features. Subtle, but visible. Good. Because I have something for you. He pulled a folder from his desk, sliding it across to me. The contract for the Capitol Hill Restaurant Commission. My lawyer drafted it this morning. Take it home, review it. Have your own lawyer look at it if you want. No pressure to sign immediately. I opened the folder, scanning the contract. The terms were exactly what he'd described last night. $50,000, complete creative control, 6 months of documentation. No hidden clauses, no requirements beyond delivering the photography. This is generous. It's fair. Your work is worth it. He stood, moving to the window. There's one other thing I wanted to discuss. Marcus Chen worked, at Morrison and Black, one of the most prestigious law firms in Seattle. He has connections, resources, and despite being fired, he still has friends in the legal community. If he decides to escalate, a simple restraining order might not be enough. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes the most effective protection is making someone understand that the cost of continuing their behavior is too high. Dante turned to face me. I have people who can make it very clear to Marcus that approaching you again will result in consequences he won't enjoy. Legal consequences, professional consequences, and if necessary, more direct consequences. Would you be comfortable with that? The question hung in the air between us. This was the line, I realized. The place where I had to decide whether I was willing to accept protection that existed outside normal legal boundaries. Where I had to trust that Dante's power, used on my behalf, wouldn't become just another form of control. What kind of direct consequences? Nothing permanent. Nothing that would put him in the hospital, but enough to make him genuinely afraid of what might happen if he doesn't stay away from you. Dante's expression was serious. I won't do anything without your explicit permission, Emma. This is your choice. I thought about Marcus's face last night, the rage barely contained. I thought about Vincent's information, the escalating behavior, the other women, the pattern of violence that Marcus clearly hadn't broken. I thought about spending the next year looking over my shoulder, wondering when he'd show up again. I want him to leave me alone, I said quietly. I want to feel safe. If your people can make that happen without seriously hurting him, then yes, I'm giving you permission. Dante nodded once. It'll be handled this week. Discreetly. Effectively. Marcus will understand that you're off limits. We talked for another hour, Dante showing me preliminary plans for the Capitol Hill restaurant, discussing his vision for the space. He wanted something that felt authentically Italian but distinctly Seattle, family recipes served in a setting that honored both his heritage and his adopted city. His passion for the project was obvious, and I found myself getting excited about documenting it, about capturing the story of something being built with genuine care. As I was leaving, Dante walked me to the elevator. Emma, thank you for trusting me. I know it's not easy after what you've been through. Thank you for giving me reasons to trust you. Not just promises, but actual follow-through. The elevator doors opened and I stepped inside. Just before they closed, Dante spoke again. If you need anything, day or night, you have my direct number. Use it. I mean that. The doors closed and I rode down to where Sarah waited with the SUV. As we drove back to my apartment, I pulled out my phone and looked at the contact information Dante had given me. His personal cell number, no assistant filtering calls, no barriers between me and help if I needed it. It had been less than 24 hours since Marcus had grabbed my wrist at Vesuvio. Less than a day since Dante had stepped between us and changed the trajectory of my immediate future. I should have been more skeptical, more cautious, more afraid of trading one dangerous situation for another, but I wasn't. For the first time in 3 months, I felt like maybe I could actually breathe without constantly checking for threats. Like maybe I could focus on my work, my art, my life, instead of just survival. That evening, Riley came over with wine and Thai food, demanding to hear every detail of my meeting with Dante. So he's protecting you, paying you a fortune for photography work, and hasn't asked for anything in return? She said it like she was confirming the details of an implausible story. Emma, that's not how powerful men usually operate. I know, which is why I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe there is no other shoe. Maybe he's just a decent person who happens to have questionable business connections. Riley poured wine into both our glasses. Or maybe he's into you and this is his weird Mafia courtship ritual. It's not like that. He's being professional. Professional men don't usually arrange personal security details and offer friendship over expensive dinners. Riley gave me a knowing look. I saw the way he looked at you at the gallery when he bought your work. Like you were the most interesting person in the room. He was looking at my photographs. He was looking at you, Em. But fine, pretend this is purely business if that makes you feel safer. She squeezed my hand. I'm glad you're protected. I've been worried about Marcus showing up for weeks. Knowing Dante Russo's people are watching over you, that makes me sleep better at night. After Riley left, I stood at my window looking out at the Seattle night, rain creating patterns on the glass. Somewhere out there, Marcus was learning that approaching me again would have consequences. Somewhere, Dante was probably still working, building his empire one careful decision at a time, and I was here, in my small apartment with new locks and window sensors, feeling safer than I had in years. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Vincent. Marcus Chen had a conversation with some associates of ours this evening. He understands the situation now. You won't have any more problems with him. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down. It was over. Marcus was handled. I could actually move forward without fear of him showing up, grabbing me, trying to drag me back into his orbit. I texted back, "Thank you." Vincent's response came immediately. "Thank Mr. Russo. He gave very specific instructions about how your ex needed to be handled. You're safe now, Ms. Hartley. That's what matters to him." I pulled up Dante's contact information, staring at his number. I should thank him. Professional courtesy, gratitude for the resources he'd deployed on my behalf. My fingers hovered over the screen. Instead, I opened my photo editing software and pulled up the shots I'd taken of abandoned spaces over the past 3 months. The broken windows, the empty rooms, the light finding its way into darkness. I'd been documenting my own emotional landscape without fully realizing it. The isolation, the damage, the slow process of healing. But now, looking at them with fresh eyes, I saw something else. Resilience, beauty emerging from destruction, the possibility of transformation. I selected my favorite image, the Morrison Hotel with light streaming through shattered glass, and started a new project file. New Beginnings, I titled it. Tomorrow, I'd start photographing Vesuvio, documenting Dante's world with the same honesty I'd brought to my personal work. Tomorrow, I'd step fully into this strange new reality where powerful men use their power to protect instead of control. But tonight, I just sat with the feeling of safety, letting it sink into my bones after 3 months of constant vigilance. Marcus was handled. I was protected. And somewhere in this complicated city, Dante Russo was making sure I had the freedom to be exactly who I needed to be. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from Dante himself. Vincent confirmed everything is handled. You can rest easy tonight, Emma. Sleep well. I typed back, thank you. For everything. His response came after a moment. You never have to thank me for keeping you safe. That's not transactional. It's just what's right. I fell asleep that night with my phone on the nightstand, the window sensors armed, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I didn't wake up once checking for threats. I slept straight through until morning, dreamless and deep, the sleep of someone who finally felt protected instead of hunted. 2 weeks into photographing Vesuvio, and I'd fallen into a rhythm that felt almost normal. I'd arrive around 4 in the afternoon, before the dinner service started, and document the preparation. Marco, the head chef, teaching his sous chefs the proper way to hand-roll pasta, servers practicing their choreography through the dining room, the way afternoon light filtered through the windows and turned the marble bar into something that belonged in a museum. Dante was there most evenings, usually in his office handling business, but he'd emerge around 6 to walk the floor, checking details with the precision of someone who genuinely cared about every element. I'd learned to capture him in those moments, adjusting a wine glass that was half an inch off-center, tasting sauce, and offering quiet suggestions to Marco, greeting regulars by name with warmth that transformed his usual intensity into something almost gentle. You're staring, Riley said, appearing at my elbow on a Thursday evening when she'd stopped by to see the restaurant. And not through your camera lens. I lowered my camera, heat rising to my face. I'm working, observing my subject. Is that what we're calling it? She grinned. Emma, the man is gorgeous, powerful, and clearly into you. Would it be the worst thing in the world if you admitted you were attracted to him? He's my employer, and my protector. Mixing business with anything else would be complicated. Everything about your situation is already complicated. What's a little more? Before I could respond, Dante himself approached, his expression warm as he greeted Riley. Ms. Chen, good to see you again. Thank you for recommending Emma's work. She's been documenting the restaurant beautifully. I saw some of her early shots. They're stunning. Riley glanced between us with barely concealed amusement. Well, I should get going. Emma, lunch tomorrow? I want to hear all about the Capitol Hill project. After she left, Dante turned to me. Hungry? Marco's testing a new menu item. I could use a second opinion. We'd fallen into this pattern over the past 2 weeks. Eating together after I finished shooting, talking about photography and restaurants and Seattle history. It felt dangerously like dating, except we carefully maintained professional distance. No touching beyond the occasional brush of hands when passing plates. No discussion of anything too personal. But tonight, as we sat in the private dining area I'd photographed on that first chaotic night, something felt different. Dante seemed distracted, his usual focus scattered. Everything okay? I asked, accepting the plate of risotto Marco had sent out. Dante looked up from the wine he'd been studying like it held answers. I need to tell you something. About the situation with Marcus. My stomach tightened. What about it? He violated the restraining order yesterday. Showed up at your old apartment building, the one you lived in before you moved. He was looking for you, asking neighbors if they knew where you'd gone. Dante's expression was hard. My people were monitoring the situation. They intervened before he could escalate. But Emma, he's not letting this go the way we'd hoped. Fear coiled through me. I thought Vincent said he understood the consequences. He understood them. He's apparently decided he doesn't care, or he's desperate enough that consequences don't matter anymore. Dante set down his glass with careful control. Which means we need to escalate our response. What does that mean? It means I'm going to make it impossible for Marcus to continue this behavior. Not just uncomfortable or inadvisable. Actually impossible. His dark eyes met mine. But I need to know you're prepared for what that might require. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared of what Marcus might do if we don't stop him completely. Dante leaned forward slightly. I'm not talking about killing him. I'm talking about destroying his ability to threaten you, his professional reputation, his financial resources, his freedom to move around the city without constant surveillance. I can make his life sufficiently miserable that staying away from you becomes his only viable option. The ruthlessness in his tone should have frightened me. Instead, I felt a complicated mix of relief and guilt. You do that for me? I'd do that for anyone I was protecting. But yes, Emma, I'd do it for you specifically. Something flickered in his expression. You've become important to me. More important than is probably wise given our professional relationship. But I'm not going to apologize for wanting to keep you safe. The admission hung in the air between us, shifting the careful balance we'd maintained. Important to him. The words echoed in my chest, finding resonance with feelings I'd been trying to ignore. I don't want you to ruin someone's life because of me, I said quietly. Even Marcus. That feels like too much power, too much responsibility. The only person ruining Marcus's life is Marcus. He's making choices that have consequences. I'm just accelerating those consequences. Dante reached across the table, his hand hovering near mine but not quite touching. But I won't do anything you're not comfortable with. This is still your decision. I thought about Marcus showing up at my old building, questioning neighbors, clearly obsessed with finding me. I thought about Vincent's warnings about escalating behavior, about how men like Marcus were most dangerous when they felt they were losing control. What exactly are you proposing? I have evidence of several ethical violations Marcus committed during his time at Morrison and Black. Financial misconduct, client confidentiality breaches, subordination of witnesses. I can ensure that evidence reaches the State Bar Association, which will result in disbarment proceedings. I can also make sure every law firm in Seattle knows exactly why he was fired and what kind of liability he represents. By the time I'm done, he won't be able to practice law anywhere on the West Coast. That's his entire career. He should have thought about that before he decided stalking you was worth the risk. Dante's voice was hard. Emma, I need you to understand something. Men like Marcus don't respond to gentle deterrence. They respond to overwhelming force. You can feel guilty about the consequences, but don't let that guilt protect someone who's actively trying to hurt you. He was right. I knew he was right. But 2 years with Marcus had trained me to make myself smaller, to absorb his bad behavior rather than respond to it, to blame myself for any consequences he faced. Okay, I said finally. Do what you need to do. Just make sure he knows this is about his choices, not about you punishing him for approaching me. I don't want him to think this is some jealous boyfriend thing. Something complicated crossed Dante's face. I'm not your boyfriend, Emma. I'm aware of that. The way he said it made my heart skip. Like it was a clarification that disappointed him. Like maybe he wanted to be more than just my protector and employer, but was holding himself back. What are you then? I asked before I could stop myself. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying me with an intensity that made my breath catch. I'm someone who cares about you more than is professionally appropriate, Someone who looks forward to these dinners more than I should. Someone who has to remind myself not to touch you because I'm terrified of making you feel pressured or controlled. The honesty in his voice cracked something open in my chest. I'm terrified of the same thing. Of misreading the situation. Of confusing gratitude with something else. Of jumping into something before I'm actually ready. Then we don't jump. Dante's hand finally closed over mine, warm and careful. We take our time. We let you heal and figure out who you are outside of Marcus's shadow. And if, after all that, there's still something here worth exploring, we'll explore it. No pressure, no timeline, no expectations. You'd wait? Even though you could probably have anyone you wanted? A slight smile touched his lips. I don't want anyone. I want you, Emma. And you're worth waiting for. The simplicity of the statement undid me. No flowery declarations, no grand gestures, just honest want paired with genuine respect for my pace. It was so fundamentally different from Marcus's possessive demands that I felt tears prick my eyes. I need time, I said, my voice thick. I need to know I can trust my own judgment again, that I'm not just attracted to you because you make me feel safe. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. He squeezed my hand gently, then released it, restoring the distance between us. In the meantime, I'll handle Marcus. You focus on your work, your healing, your life. Let me worry about the threats. Over the next week, I watched Dante orchestrate Marcus's professional destruction with the efficiency of someone conducting a symphony. He never told me the details directly, but I heard things. From Vincent's updates, from Riley's connections in the legal community, from my own carefully monitored email where Marcus's increasingly desperate messages painted a picture of his collapsing world. The State Bar Association launched a formal investigation. Morrison and Black released a statement distancing themselves from Marcus's behavior during his employment. 3 women came forward with complaints about his conduct, finally feeling safe enough to speak up now that his power was broken. Marcus sent me emails blaming me for everything, claiming I'd destroyed his life by involving criminals in our personal business. I forwarded them all to Vincent without responding, watching Marcus's fury and desperation from behind the protection Dante had built around me. He's finished in Seattle, Vincent told me during one of our weekly security briefings. No law firm will touch him. His reputation is destroyed, and he's facing serious professional consequences. Mr. Russo's people have made it very clear that any further attempts to contact you will result in criminal charges with evidence that will stick. It's over, Ms. Hartley. You can actually breathe now. I wanted to feel triumphant. Instead, I felt complicated grief for the person I'd loved before I understood what he really was. Not grief for Marcus himself, but for the version of him I'd believed in, the relationship I'd thought we had before reality cracked through the illusion. Dante found me sitting alone in Vesuvio after closing one night, staring at my camera without actually taking pictures. He'd learned to read my moods over the past few weeks, understood when I needed space and when I needed company. Want to talk about it? He sat down across from me, 2 glasses of wine in hand. I keep thinking about how I didn't see it. With Marcus, how I convinced myself that his controlling behavior was just him caring, that his jealousy meant he loved me, that his anger was my fault for not being good enough. I accepted the wine he offered. How did I miss all those signs? Because abusers are good at hiding who they really are until you're too invested to leave easily. Because you're a good person who assumes the best in people. Dante's voice was gentle. And because recognizing abuse while you're in it requires perspective you don't have until you're out. Your sister. Did she blame herself too? For years. Even after she left him, even after she was safe, she kept wondering what she could have done differently. What signs she'd missed, what she should have known. He was quiet for a moment. It took a long time for her to understand that the only person responsible for his abuse was him. Is she okay now? Your sister? She's better. Married to a man who actually treats her well, has a daughter, works as a victim's advocate helping other women leave abusive situations. Dante's expression softened. She turned her pain into purpose. I think you'll do the same, Emma. You're already documenting beauty in broken spaces. That takes someone who understands trauma and healing. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking wine while rain drummed against the windows. The restaurant was empty, staff gone home, just the two of us in the space I'd been photographing for weeks. Can I ask you something? I said finally. About your family business? The parts that aren't restaurants and wine imports. Dante's expression grew cautious. You can ask. I might not answer everything, but I won't lie to you. Riley said you're connected, that your family has influence that goes beyond legitimate business. Is that true? Yes. The single word hung in the air, honest and unvarnished. My grandfather came from Sicily with nothing. He built a network helping Italian immigrants survive in a city that didn't want them. Some of what he did was legal. Most wasn't. Dante's gaze was steady. My father inherited that network and expanded it. When he died 5 years ago, I inherited both the legitimate businesses and the less legitimate operations. I've been working to transition everything toward legal enterprises, but that process takes time, and I'm still responsible for operations that exist in gray areas. What kind of gray areas? Protection services for businesses the police won't help. Financial services for communities banks won't serve. Dispute resolution that can't go through the courts. He paused. I'm not going to pretend I'm a saint, Emma. I've hurt people who threatened my family or our operations. I've made decisions that would horrify most civilians, but I operate by rules. I don't harm innocents, I don't deal in drugs or human trafficking, and I don't use my power to prey on vulnerable people. How do you reconcile that? The violence with the protection? I don't. Always. It's a constant negotiation between the man I want to be and the role I was born into. His dark eyes held mine. Does knowing this change how you see me? I thought about the question honestly. Did it change things, knowing that Dante had hurt people, operated outside the law, wielded power in ways most people never contemplated? I think I already knew, I said slowly. The way you handled Marcus, the resources you deployed, the fear in people's eyes when they realize who you are, those aren't the traits of a simple restaurateur. But Dante, you've used that power to protect me, not control me. You've given me choices instead of ultimatums. You've respected my boundaries, even when it was clearly difficult for you. That matters more than the gray areas you operate in. Relief flickered across his features. I needed you to know the truth. Before this, he gestured between us, becomes anything more than it is now. You deserve to choose with full information. And if I choose you anyway, even knowing everything, then I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of that choice. His hand reached across the table, palm up, offering but not demanding. But Emma, I need you to be sure. I need you to know that being with me means accepting a level of danger and moral complexity that you shouldn't have to deal with. People will judge you for being with me. Law enforcement will always be watching. And my enemies will see you as a vulnerability they can exploit. I thought about Marcus, about the 2 years I'd spent compromising myself for someone who didn't deserve it. I thought about the past few weeks with Dante, the way he'd protected without possessing, cared without controlling, wanted without demanding. I placed my hand in his. I'm not sure of everything. I'm still healing, still figuring out who I am outside of trauma and fear. But I'm sure that what I feel when I'm with you isn't just gratitude or security. It's genuine connection with someone who sees me as a whole person, not just something to be saved or controlled. I squeezed his hand gently. So maybe we move forward carefully. Maybe we let this be whatever it becomes without forcing it. But Dante, I'm choosing to try. With full information, with eyes open, I'm choosing you. The smile that crossed his face transformed him, softening the hard edges I'd grown accustomed to. He stood, moving around the table, and pulled me gently to my feet. His hands framed my face with a tenderness that made my breath catch. I'm going to kiss you now, he said quietly. If that's okay. That's okay. He kissed me like I was precious, like he'd been thinking about this moment for weeks and wanted to get it exactly right. His lips were soft against mine, questioning rather than demanding, and when I leaned into him, deepening the kiss, I felt his careful control waver. We broke apart slowly, both breathing harder than warranted by a single kiss. I've wanted to do that since the night I first saw your photography, Dante admitted. Since before I even met you in person. I saw your work and wanted to know the person who understood pain and beauty in equal measure. I've wanted it since you stepped between Marcus and me. Since you gave me the choice to stay behind you instead of just moving me there yourself. I traced his jawline with my fingertips. You gave me agency in a moment when I had none. That's when I started falling for you. Falling? He caught my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm. Past tense or present? Present. Continuous. Ongoing and terrifying and real. We stood in the empty restaurant, holding each other while rain continued its assault on the windows, and for the first time in 3 months, I let myself believe that maybe I could have this. Safety and passion, protection and autonomy, a relationship built on respect instead of control. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Vincent. Marcus Chen was arrested an hour ago. Multiple violations of restraining order, witness intimidation, attempted trespassing. Judge set bail at $500,000. He won't make it. You're completely safe now, Ms. Hartley. I showed Dante the message and watched satisfaction cross his features. It's over, he said. Marcus is facing real consequences. You're safe, and you can finally move forward without looking over your shoulder. Thanks to you. Thanks to you being brave enough to accept help. Brave enough to let me protect you without giving up your autonomy. He pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me in an embrace that felt like coming home. What do you want to do now? Now that you're truly free? I thought about the question. What did I want? Now that fear wasn't dictating my choices. I want to start photographing the Capitol Hill restaurant. I want to document you building something new from the ground up. I looked up at him. And I want to see where this goes. Us. Without timelines or pressure. Just honest exploration of what we could be together. I can give you that. All of it. Dante's thumb traced my cheekbone gently. But Emma, I need you to promise me something. What? If this ever feels like too much, if my world becomes suffocating, if you need distance or space or time, you tell me. You don't suffer in silence trying to be strong enough to handle it. You don't compromise yourself to make me happy. His eyes were intense, serious. I've seen what happens when women sacrifice themselves for powerful men. I won't let that be you. The promise undid me completely. Here was a man with the power to control my entire life, voluntarily giving me the exit strategy, offering me safety with built-in escape routes. I promise, I whispered, and I need you to promise me something too. Anything. Don't hide your darkness from me. Don't pretend to be something softer than you are to make me comfortable. I'm choosing you, Dante. All of you, including the parts that operate in gray areas. I need you to trust me with the truth, even when it's complicated. He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I felt the careful control he maintained start to crack. His hand slid into my hair, and I pressed closer, wanting to close every inch of distance between us. We finally broke apart when we both needed air, foreheads resting together, breathing hard. "Come home with me," Dante said, his voice rough. "Not for anything you're not ready for. Just to be together without the restaurant staff arriving in the morning. I want to wake up with you, Emma. I want to make you breakfast and talk about your photography and start building something real." "Okay," I said, the word feeling like a leap and a landing all at once. "Take me home." We drove through rain-soaked Seattle streets, the city glittering with reflected light, and I felt something shift inside me. This was what freedom felt like. Not the absence of connection, but connection chosen freely. Not isolation masquerading as independence, but partnership that enhanced, rather than diminished, autonomy. Dante's penthouse was in a building overlooking Elliott Bay, all windows and clean lines and space that felt both luxurious and lived in. He poured us wine, and we sat on his couch talking until dawn started painting the sky in shades of gray and pink. We talked about my photography, about his plans for the new restaurant, about his sister's recovery, and my friendship with Riley. We talked about our families, his complicated Italian heritage, my parents who died when I was 23 and left me adrift until Marcus had found me vulnerable and moldable. "I wish I could have met you before Marcus," I said as the sun rose fully. "Before I learned to make myself small. Before I forgot what it felt like to take up space." "I like who you are now," Dante said, his arm around my shoulders. "You're not small, Emma. You're a survivor who's learning to be more than just survival. That's not weakness. That's transformation." I fell asleep on his couch, wrapped in his arms, and slept deeper than I had in years. When I woke, late morning sun was streaming through the windows, and Dante was in the kitchen making coffee, his movements easy and domestic. "Morning," he said, smiling when he saw me awake. "I wasn't sure how you take your eggs." "However you make them is fine." We ate breakfast together, and it felt shockingly normal. No drama, no crisis, just two people enjoying food and conversation, and the beginning of something neither of us could fully name yet. My phone rang. "Riley. I'm at your apartment with bagels and mimosas, and I need to hear everything about last night because Vincent Torres told Anthony something happened, and Anthony won't tell me what, and I'm dying of curiosity." I looked at Dante, who was listening with obvious amusement. "Tell her to come to my place," he said. "Address is 2150 Western Avenue, penthouse level. We'll make it brunch." An hour later, Riley arrived with Anthony in tow, and we sat around Dante's dining table while I tried to explain what was happening between us. Riley's reaction oscillated between excitement for me and concern about the complications. "I'm happy for you," she said finally. "Really happy. But Emma, please be careful. Promise me you'll keep your eyes open and your instincts sharp." "I promise." Anthony raised his mimosa glass. "To new beginnings. And to Emma, who's braver than she gives herself credit for." We toasted, and I looked around the table. Riley, my best friend who'd stood by me through everything. Anthony, who'd become a friend in his own right. And Dante, who'd somehow become my protector, employer, and the first person in years who made me feel genuinely seen. This was my life now. Complicated, unconventional, built on foundations that existed outside traditional boundaries. But it was mine, chosen freely, constructed from pieces of myself I'd reclaimed one painful decision at a time. Later, after Riley and Anthony left, Dante pulled me close on his couch overlooking the sound. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking that 6 weeks ago I was terrified and alone and convinced I'd never feel safe again. And now I'm here, with you, actually believing in the possibility of happiness." I looked up at him. "You did that, Dante. You gave me back the ability to hope. We did that together. I just provided resources and protection. You did the hard work of healing, of being brave enough to trust again. He kissed my forehead gently. And Emma? This is just the beginning. We have so much time to build something real, something lasting. No rush, no pressure, just honest growth. I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into the connection, gratitude and desire and the fragile beginning of love. Outside, Seattle continued its eternal rain, but inside Dante's penthouse I finally felt warm, safe, chosen, free. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I believed that maybe, just maybe, I deserved all of it. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.